They attacked a human outpost. Humanity responded. Minutes later, their homeworld was gone. The view screen inside the Synarchy High Hall turned completely white, the silence of the vacuum offering no comfort to High War Master Kalentor. He watched his 75 centuries of regional dominance evaporate into thermal plasma in less than 4 seconds. 12 relativistic tungsten rods, each a block of compressed metal, struck the Imperial core moons simultaneously. His mechanical monocle fractured under the thermal flare just as he realized humanity never planned to fight a war. They simply executed a formula. I wish I could tell you it ended there. It didn't. Stay close. The Oruvan Synarchy had adjusted the borders of the outer rim for 75 centuries, mapping the galaxy in copper ink and heavy iron taxes. They treated war as an accounting exercise, a simple ledger entry to be balanced. When they reached charting Relay 11 Delta, they saw a modular, unpainted habitat anchored to a silicate asteroid, and they marked it for deletion. They brought 64 dreadnoughts to realign a border treaty, expecting a standard diplomatic protest or a panicked retreat. They did not expect the silence. Commander Jonathan Vance stood at the console of Relay 11 Delta, his left ring finger, a textured obsidian cybernetic replacement, clicking softly as he mapped the incoming signatures. The air in the relay smelled of old copper wiring and cold metal paste. Officer Ortiz checked the hull weld lines again, his boots echoing on the grated floor. Vance didn't look at the tactical display that showed 18 heavy cruisers dropping out of warp. He watched the telemetry streams instead. "They're hailing us," Ortiz said, his voice tight, demanding evacuation on an open loop. Vance didn't answer. He reached out and touched the tarnished titanium soldering block on his console. The grid held true as long as the heat remained steady at 400. He checked the mechanical temperature scale, then looked at the terminal. The core registry indicated 0 active weapon platforms, but it handled 4 petabytes of telemetry per second from the outer Uit cloud. "Let them hail," Vance said. He locked the local automated data offload program. High War Master Kalentor sat on his command throne, his unblinking golden eyes fixed on the relay's status light. He was missing his lower secondary left arm from the Silesian annexations, a scar he wore as a reminder of his own tactical efficiency. He authorized the immediate mechanical deconstruction of the relay. He wanted the obstruction cleared to optimize his raw material extraction routes. He waited for the humans to break. They didn't. The Synarchy mass drivers fired, tearing through the relay's hull plates in a storm of orbital railfare. "Telemetry offload complete," Ortiz shouted over the alarm. He didn't run for the pods. He watched the screen. Vance didn't look at the explosion. He watched the gravity anomaly reports flooding in from the Uit cloud. 12 massive kinetic arrays, hidden for decades, were now awake. High Recorder Alenzai screamed from the comms array that the signatures were not ships. They were dense tungsten blocks. They were traveling at nearly the speed of light. "Recall the fleet," Kalentor roared, but his voice was lost in the sudden, sharp failure of his planetary telemetry systems. The first slug struck the main naval yard. The secondary arrays followed, tearing through the Imperial hubs before shields could even initialize. Kalentor's view screen in the high hall turned white. His tactical projections vanished. The registry, the pride of the Synarchy, lost all capital signatures in a single blind pulse of kinetic energy. Vance stood inside Earth Central Command, far from the rim. He set his cold chicory brew down on the desk. He didn't look at the monitor as the primary Oruvan sector grid lights went gray. He simply reached for the ledger and signed the permanent termination for Sector 0. The math was solved before the Vanguard had even left their home dock. For a moment the silence was absolute. The Oruvan border outposts switched their comms to passive channels, their naval registry purged, their industrial heart turned to radioactive stardust. Analyst Lin noted that the trade lanes were now perfectly clear of custom checks for the next 3 sectors. No one celebrated. The work was simply done. Vance pulled the soldering block from his console. Its temperature had dropped back to the ambient room baseline. He slid it into his drawer, the metal dull and cold. The automated tracking arrays in the solar periphery reset to 0, waiting for the next anomalous boundary cross. The radar didn't register a fleet because there was no fleet left to count. The block was cold now because the system was done maintaining the balance.